Welcome to the deep dive, where we take your sources, your articles, your research, your very own notes, and really extract those essential nuggets of knowledge. Think of it as, your shortcut to being truly well-informed. We try to add some surprising facts, maybe just enough humor to keep you hooked.
Right.
Today, we're plunging into a truly, well, audacious theory. It's one that completely upends our understanding of history. Challenges pretty much every established timeline, every narrative we hold dear.
It really does.
We're going on a deep dive into excerpts from a book called Encrypted Reality, and it posits nothing less than a millennia-long, meticulously orchestrated project of historical manipulation.
That's exactly it. And this isn't just, minor edits or tweaking a few events here and there.
No.
Imagine a secret society, a kind of hidden fraternity that's been meticulously shaping civilization for thousands of years.
Thousands.
Yeah, to the point where what we call history is actually, according to this source, a carefully constructed fabrication, a grand illusion, really, designed to hide their influence. It's an incredibly bold claim. So our mission today is to unpack this intricate web of evidence and arguments presented in these sources. Explore the implications. What if even a fraction of this theory holds true?
Exactly. So let's dive deep into this. Get ready, because you might need to question everything you thought you knew about the past. This book argues the past we know. It might just be the most elaborate fiction ever told. Okay, so at the very core of this deep dive, the idea that just underpins everything is this assertion that history, as we know it, is a fabrication.
Right.
Not something that organically developed and got recorded, but engineered with, well, chilling precision by a covert organization known only as the Watch. And we're not talking minor edits or leaving a few things out. The book posits a complete systemic rewrite of historical events, a system so pervasive, so deeply embedded, it shapes our very perception of the past, even apparently foundational myths and figures.
Indeed. And the author introduces us to a central figure within this alleged conspiracy, a master operative codenamed G. Now, what's truly mind-bending here is the claim that G isn't just one historical person.
Right.
No, it's the single individual behind three colossal 15th century figures, people we normally think of as entirely separate, distinct historical giants.
Okay, who are we talking about?
We're talking Leon Battista Alberti, the Italian Renaissance polymath, genius in architecture, art, philosophy, math.
The ultimate Renaissance man, yeah.
Then Nezahualcoyotl, the revered Aztec philosopher king from Texcoco, warrior architect.
Yeah. Okay, across the Atlantic.
Exactly. And Pachacuti, the transformative Inca emperor who massively expanded the Inca Empire.
So Italy, Mexico, Peru, all one guy.
The book's assertion links them all back to one hidden hand, one singular consciousness operating under multiple guises across continents.
Yeah.
That's the claim.
So this book is suggesting G was basically playing a multi-continental, multi-persona game.
Right.
That really challenges the very concept of historical agency as we understand it.
It does.
And maybe even more astonishingly, the book argues G was actually born in the Americas and introduced advanced knowledge, concepts like humanism, to Europe. Not the other way around, which is the standard narrative.
Right. The usual story is Europe exporting enlightenment.
Exactly. This completely flips that. Suggests the flow of innovation wasn't Europe outward, but the other way around, at least initially, for these key ideas.
Yeah, the key takeaway here, according to the source, is that our understanding of intellectual and cultural exchange might be fundamentally reversed. The so-called New World actually seeding the old.
Wow.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source describes G as responsible for systematically seeding knowledge across continents, almost like a benevolent intellectual Johnny Appleseed, maybe, but with a far more calculated purpose.
Okay.
He allegedly spread advanced concepts, art principles, math, sophisticated societal structures, but then after his death, a rival faction within the Watch.
Internal politics.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Led by an operative called the Mole, allegedly corrupted this network. Exploited global crises, moments of vulnerability, seized control, and betrayed G's original lineage and his, perceived benevolent intent. Which brings up a really fundamental question. What could possibly motivate such an elaborate millennia-long project, all this control, this manipulation? What was the ultimate end game for orchestrating entire civilizations from the shadows?
Right. What's the point?
Well, the book argues the Watch's influence traces back not just centuries, but deep into antiquity.
Deep antiquity? Like how deep?
It suggests figures from the ancient Near East are what the author calls fractal echoes of these patterns.
Fractal echoes. What does that mean exactly?
Think of a complex pattern, like in a fractal, that repeats itself at different scales. So the blueprint for G and his methods, not new in the 15th century, it had been replicated, apparently, across vast stretches of time.
Okay, so like earlier versions.
Exactly. Sargon of Akkad, the Mesopotamian emperor, creator of the First Empire, may be linked to the biblical Nimrod. He's presented as a proto-G, an earlier iteration, suggesting a continuous lineage of these powerful hidden figures.
Wow. And where did it all start?
The network's ultimate origins, surprisingly, are pinned down to the Amorites, a Semitic-speaking people from ancient Canaan.
Canaan. So modern-day Israel, Palestine region.
That's the area, yes. So not some vague secret society from nowhere, but rooted in a specific historical place, suggesting a deep, persistent presence for this covert group.
So the blueprint existed thousands of years earlier, and the origins trace back to the Amorites in Canaan. That is a profoundly specific and, surprising detail. Suggests a lineage of control far older than most theories would dare imagine, woven right into early civilization.
And what's really fascinating here is how the author reinterprets what we think of as universal myths.
Like what?
Like the Great Flood story, you find versions everywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or the recurring image of an eagle fighting a serpent. You see that from the Americas to ancient Egypt.
True.
According to the source, these aren't organic legends. They're not spontaneous cultural developments. They are deliberately engineered narratives.
Engineered? For what purpose?
Used by the Watch, the book claims, to manage societal resets.
Resets, like controlled collapse and rebuilding.
Oh, something like that. And also to leave coded signposts for their agents across time. So these myths, they functioned as a kind of intergenerational communication, a subtle control mechanism, almost like a distributed, timeless instruction manual for their operatives.
So stories we think are fundamental to human culture might actually be sophisticated tools of manipulation, designed to guide and reshape society.
That's the perspective offered. It suggests these foundational stories might be tools to guide societal consciousness.
That puts a completely different and, frankly, unsettling spin on ancient stories and global myths. But again, why? Why go to all this trouble? What could possibly drive such an intricate, sustained effort for thousands of years?
The ultimate motivation, the source speculates, stems from something incredibly primal, a subconscious legacy reflex connected to their Neanderthal ancestry.
Wait, in Neanderthal ancestry, how does that fit in?
This impulse is framed not as a conscious conspiracy like we think of today, but as an ancient instinctual assertion, a reaction against their prehistoric displacement by Homo sapiens.
So like an ancient grudge match playing out over millennia?
Kind of. The book argues this legacy reflex manifests as a deep-seated, almost genetic need to control the human narrative, preserve their own lineage, and subtly guide civilization from the shadows.
And how did they do that, practically speaking, way back then?
To achieve this, the book suggests even early writing systems, like Sumerian cuneiform, are re-envisioned, not just as record-keeping, but as cryptographic tools, designed specifically to maintain this hidden control, encoding their influence right into the fabric of early communication.
Okay, let's just unpack this for a second. A primal, almost genetic drive to control humanity's story because of something that happened in deep prehistory. An ancient response to being displaced by Homo sapiens. That is a truly wild premise. It fundamentally links deep time, anthropology, and a secret society's actions. The key takeaway here is history might not just be driven by human ambition or economics, but by a hidden ancestral impulse for control that transforms everything.
It really sets the stage for everything else we're about to explore. It argues the most profound historical forces might be rooted in our most ancient subconscious drives.
Okay, so moving from these huge overarching theories to the actual mechanics, how is this deception supposedly maintained? The source dives deep into the alphabet itself.
Right, the very structure of written language.
It argues that was a tool of control. Now, Leon Battista Alberti, our G figure, he wasn't just an artist, philosopher, he was a profound mathematician.
Right.
The text links him to one of the most ancient math texts known, the Rhind Mathematical Papyrus, which it notes is incomplete and came from Africa. And then it makes this striking assertion about figures like Apophis, the Egyptian pharaoh, and Sargon of Akkad. They aren't just historical figures, but part of a bigger, orchestrated plan to control knowledge.
Precisely. These figures, Apophis especially, he was a Hyksos pharaoh, 15th dynasty, they aren't presented as distinct, independent entities.
Okay.
Rather, they're conceptualized as superimposed narratives. intentionally crafted, the book argues, to extend G's paternal lineage deep into antiquity, creating this fabricated sense of continuity.
So making it look like an unbroken line.
Exactly, reinforcing manufactured historical patterns. Apophis, first documented in the 8th dynasty, later revered in the 14th. He's said to have developed a sophisticated form of alphabetic encryption.
Encryption, so the letters we use might have roots in secrecy.
That's the argument. A system designed for coded communication, not just simple transcription.
And here's the paradox, right? Widespread illiteracy back then served as the main layer of secrecy.
Absolutely. If only a select few, an elite, could read and write, the written word itself became a secure channel, almost impenetrable. The very first pure alphabets, abjads, systems like early Hebrew or Arabic that mostly show consonants,
Right.
they emerged from the Proto-Canaanite script, which is widely acknowledged as the ancestor of all known alphabets today.
So literacy wasn't just progress. It was a weapon, a tool for power, wielded only by the watch.
That's the implication. Alberti famously advocated teaching children the alphabet at the earliest possible age. Seems progressive, right?
Yeah, sounds like good education policy.
But the author posits the alphabet itself functioned as a sophisticated recruitment and training mechanism for G and this wider intelligence network.
How so?
In the ancient world, literacy was rare, restricted, so the ability to read and write became the earliest form of cryptographic expertise. Those initiated were part of a specialized class. They could encode, decode information. That gave them immense strategic power, social influence, shaping societies from within just by controlling information.
This is where it gets really mind-bending. The book argues writing wasn't just for stories or trade or recording history as we think of it.
No.
It proposes it originated from a singular source, the watch, and was then deliberately spread across civilizations by these humanists, like a controlled release of powerful tech tailored for specific regions.
Right.
Early Gothic writing systems, evolving into true writing, were mainly intelligence tools. Graphemes often embedded coded symbols. Even numbers had dual meanings, arithmetic and symbolic, hidden messages. And it argues even Nezahualcoyotl's Native American scripts, the partially deciphered hieroglyphic ones, they fit this pattern too, suggesting a consistent global strategy, unifying seemingly different writing traditions under one covert umbrella.
The source speculates Apophis ingeniously repurposed elements, took bits of Akkadian cuneiform, Egyptian hieroglyphs, constructed the foundations of the Phoenician alphabet.
So not natural evolution, but deliberate synthesis.
That's the idea. But crucial to the watch's methods, apparently, a different faction within the group manipulated this linguistic blueprint after Apophis died, obscuring its true origins, making it harder to trace, adding layers of obfuscation.
Right.
You see this consistency. The Amorite language, attested way back in the 21st century BC, is related to Aramaic. Amorite kings used Akkadian for coded diplomatic messages. It indicates this persistent use of encrypted methods, a pattern of secret communication spanning millennia, hidden in plain sight.
This pattern of remixing, repurposing, obfuscating, it sounds like a constant strategy, re-engineering the narrative and the tools for communicating it. A pervasive long-term strategy embedded in language itself.
Which raises a really important question about identity, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How do languages relate to ethnic identity in this context, especially if everything seems so carefully manipulated?
Yeah, that's a good point.
The source notes that language often gets wrongly conflated with ethnicity. For example, the original Semites, as an ethno-linguistic group, didn't necessarily share physical traits with most modern Semitic groups. The term now refers mainly to language speakers, a linguistic lineage, not genetic.
Okay, so that distinction is key here.
It is, because the book posits that Proto-Indo-Europeans, the group giving us Sanskrit, later European languages actually descended from a Semitic-speaking elite group.
Really?
Yeah, migrated northward from the Black Sea region. This elite imposed their language on conquered populations. That language then evolved, but crucially, it retained Afroasiatic roots.
That's a fundamental reframing of a huge chunk of linguistic history. Challenges the whole conventional story of Indo-European origins, suggests a hidden Semitic influence.
It is indeed a radical reframing. And this problematic pattern, the book argues, extends deep into the historical record. The elite ruling classes of these ancient civilizations consistently seem to originate from that Black Sea region. The people they conquered would then adopt their languages, customs, creating this misleading historical perception where the subjugated look like the originators of the culture.
Ah, I see. So the conquerors get written out, in a way.
Precisely. This is how the watch systematically remixed historical records. The author calls it narrative recapture. They allowed the conquered people to basically fabricate their own histories, deliberately leaving out the true past, preventing the underlying pattern of manipulation from being recognized, perpetuating similar deceptive behaviors across generations hidden within the histories we read.
Okay, this concept of narrative recapture, it brings us to a really provocative contemporary observation in the source.
Yes.
The Watch, it claims, perceives what some call cancel culture as an early indicator of burgeoning social instability.
How so?
It interprets public condemnations, the act of erasure of historical narratives or figures, as justification for their direct intervention, suggesting they see modern social phenomena not as organic movements, but as signals for their own strategic engagement to either stabilize or redirect narratives.
Wow, okay, so that feeds directly into their cyclical reset process, where they meticulously manipulate narratives to maintain societal equilibrium while making sure their hidden influence persists.
Right.
And what's particularly striking here is the author's speculation about things like diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, DEI movements, especially those observed in popular culture, like in major franchises, Marvel, Netflix.
Yeah, what about them?
The book suggests these are not organic developments driven by societal evolution.
Okay, so what are they then, according to this?
They're interpreted as integral components of these premeditated societal resets. The argument is that the watch leverages the power of the mob, or widespread public opinion and social movements, to strategically advance their own agenda, controlling overarching cultural narratives.
That is an incredibly cynical and, yeah, bold claim about modern cultural shifts, reframing what many see as progressive movements as part of a larger hidden agenda.
It's definitely provocative. The book isn't endorsing or criticizing these movements, mind you. It's presenting them as fitting into a recurring pattern of manipulation, as interpreted through this lens. Okay, so moving from language to crisis. The sources connect these resets to historical crises, particularly large-scale plagues.
Plagues.
During these devastating outbreaks, local Egyptian rulers, for instance, were overwhelmed. Disease, societal breakdown. They allegedly lacked the strength to stop agents from the watch from infiltrating and establishing settlements.
So using chaos as cover.
Seems to be the idea. Historical records during these periods show minimal large-scale warfare. It points instead to a covert internal takeover, achieved through infiltration, strategic alliances, economic leverage, not open conflict.
Right.
This suggests pandemics weren't just natural disasters. They were strategically opportune moments for the watch to expand influence, consolidate control, without drawing too much attention.
So the book argues plague was basically a tool for strategic gain. It describes these operatives expanding over time, methodically moving from Kish in Mesopotamia to Canaan, then into Africa.
Yeah, this deliberate long-term migration let them dominate crucial trade routes, command strategic coasts, exploit their advanced seafaring skills. It reveals a very long-term patient strategy, economic and territorial control, using the chaos of disease as cover.
And they point to specific evidence for this long-term coordination.
Well, another key detail the book highlights is an architectural parallel. Apophis, or Hyksos, and Sargon of Akkad. Despite living conventionally thousands of years apart,
Yes.
they apparently employed identical brick types for flood control along rivers.
Identical bricks. After millennia.
The author presents this striking, very specific parallel as compelling evidence of shared esoteric knowledge, far-reaching influence, suggesting the consistency of the watch's methods across vast time. It's offered as a kind of material fingerprint of a unified hidden agenda.
Okay. And then there's the Hyksos themselves, traditionally seen as invaders who ruled Egypt briefly.
Right. The source credits them with introducing groundbreaking military tech to Egypt. Composite bows, horse-drawn war vehicles, enhanced bronze weapons. Revolutionized warfare back then.
Okay, standard history acknowledges that, more or less.
But here's where it gets truly astonishing, according to the book. These exact same military items, they were introduced to the Americas during the Renaissance, thousands of years later, conventionally speaking.
The exact same items in the Americas.
This precise temporal mirroring of tech introduction across continents separated by millennia, it's argued to be no accident, a deliberate manipulation of history, a restaging of past events, suggesting the watch was replicating its tactics across vastly different eras.
Wow. Okay. How could that even work? What facilitated such consistent patterns, such precise mirroring?
Well, the book brings in the theory of the bicameral mind here.
Julian Jaynes' theory. Right. The idea that early humans experienced gods as internal auditory commands.
Exactly. Not external deities, but like a separate divine part of their brain guiding them, before modern consciousness fully emerged.
Okay.
The source suggests Egyptian gods reflected these desires, subjective experiences, providing directives, shaping reality for these early humans. Apophis, for instance, exclusively worshipped Seth, a lonely god, often linked to chaos storms.
Right.
The book interprets this as pointing to a crucial shift, moving away from many internal voices, like in polytheism, towards a more unified internalized authority, just as Jaynes described.
So a deliberate manipulation of human psychology to foster obedience by providing a single divine voice?
That seems to be the implication, and Seth often depicted as pure evil in later myths.
Yeah, the bad guy in the Osiris story.
But he was also foundational to the Old Kingdom, embodied this complex duality creation, destruction, the widespread Hyksos worship of Seth. The book suggests it might have been reverse psychology after their records were rewritten by the Watch.
How so? Reverse psychology.
Subtly introducing the Hegelian dialectic into society's consciousness. The idea that truth comes from conflict between opposing ideas, to foster reconciliation between factions or even within the individual mind. The myth of Seth supporting Ra against Apepi, the serpent of chaos, it mirrors the internal struggle within a transitioning bicameral mind, suggesting these myths weren't just stories, they were sophisticated psychological conditioning tools designed to manage that shift in human consciousness.
That's intricate.
Indeed. And the source highlights that the New Kingdom's Osiris myth, the one portraying Seth as the bad guy, which became dominant after the Hyksos were expelled, was archaeologically inserted long after Seth first appeared in Egyptian religion.
Inserted later.
Strongly suggesting intentional revision of religious history, designed to demonize the Hyksos after they were no longer useful. Plus, texts like the Epic of Kurta, a Canaanite myth, they referred to deities like Baal, the Canaanite Seth, and Asherah, suggesting a reliance on externalized auditory guidance for critical decisions, which is presented as a hallmark of bicameral societies, where divine voices dictated actions, making them particularly susceptible to manipulation by a group that could effectively speak as those gods.
This connects to collective trauma too, right? The Black Death example.
Yes, the book connects these historical manipulations to our fundamental psychology during extreme crisis. Let's unpack that. It argues humanity's collective trauma during the Black Death, where corpses were treated as sentient, auditory hallucinations were widespread.
Yeah, horrifying accounts.
It aligns perfectly with Jaynes' theory. The idea is societal collapse, like from the plague, fractured the bicameral mind, intensified those inner voices that had once guided behavior. As these externalized divine voices faded, new psychological coping mechanisms emerged, which were then ritualized into early religious practices.
So pandemics created windows for intervention.
That's the argument. Pandemics precede collapse, creating opportune windows for elite intervention, laying the groundwork for organized religion, even mental illness as we understand it. It's a chilling thought that even our fundamental psychology, our religious structures, might be products of deliberate historical engineering, tailored during humanity's most vulnerable moments. So the Watch is said to have originated in prehistoric Canaan, as we mentioned.
Right.
And from there, their influence spread incredibly wide, demonstrating this astonishing migratory pattern. They're theorized to have moved extensively, first to the Black Sea region, then to Iraq in what we call classical antiquity, subsequently to Egypt, various parts of Asia, and finally to lowland Mexico, eventually establishing significant settlements in Italy, which then evolved into the groups we know as the Greeks and Romans.
So a single network responsible for seeding the foundations of multiple major civilizations, directly challenging the idea of independent cultural origins.
That's the claim. And the book argues that the very bedrock of our contemporary Greco-Roman culture, whose customs, traditions we inherited, was initially Stone Age in its tech development.
Stone Age.
And then its perceived technological progress, like the advancements during the Mediterranean Hellenistic period, was deliberately misdated by centuries.
Misdated? Why?
According to the source, this was done to make other regions appear slower in their development. It redates entire epochs, arguing Europe's perceived early advancement was a fabricated illusion, designed to control the narrative of global development, maintain a sense of superiority in one region.
Wow. That's a huge redating effort.
And that's not all. The book claims all events traditionally assigned to antiquity, Egyptian dynasties, Babylonian astronomy, even Homeric epics like the Iliad and Odyssey.
Yeah.
They're not only reinterpreted as medieval fabrications, but specifically repositioned into the Middle Ages, effectively compressing history.
Compressing history.
Yeah.
So ancient Greece happened in the Middle Ages.
That's the radical proposal. And pre-civilizational developments, tool-making, are said to have happened before the 11th century, in what the author describes as pre-conscious human states before the full emergence of the bicameral mind.
Which raises the question, how could such a massive deception be maintained? For so long, across so many cultures, continents, the coordination required seems unimaginable.
Part of it, the source argues, was through strategic reinterpretation and controlled rediscovery.
Like the Egypt example.
Exactly. When Western fascination with Egypt suddenly revived during the colonial expansions of the 16th century, a movement the book claims was heavily influenced by the Watch. North Africa was deliberately rebranded, made into an idealized classical archetype.
To justify what?
To justify a wider Western cultural resurgence and expansion. The sudden vanishing and later rediscovery of ancient Egypt are portrayed as proof of this hidden brotherhood's deliberate rewriting of history, making it seem like natural intellectual progress, not calculated manipulation for contemporary agendas. It also highlights the significance of Champollion's decipherment of hieroglyphs in the 1820s.
Right. Crack the code.
Before that pivotal moment, there was no direct access to how ancient Egyptians understood their own past, figures like Apophis and Sargon, despite their supposed significance in this theory, conspicuously absent from mainstream historical knowledge until the 19th century.
So they might be retroactive fabrications, inserted later.
The book suggests they may be retroactive fabrications or reinterpretations, deliberately introduced to reshape narratives, make them fit the Watch's evolving story. This even extends to the Hyksos. The source suggests they might have been one of the 7 tribal factions driven out of Israel during the Exodus, further connecting seemingly disparate historical and religious narratives.
This gets truly fascinating now. This manipulation extends globally, affecting more than just Europe and the Near East.
Oh yes, the Columbian Exchange, that pivotal 15th, 16th century transfer of goods, cultures, diseases between the New and Old worlds. It's framed not as organic history, but as an unprecedented transfer, initiated and profoundly shaped by the Watch's influence. And just as the Hyksos developed an alphabet making literacy more attainable in the Mediterranean, parallel, synchronized advances were happening elsewhere, suggesting a coordinated global rollout of key societal advancements, not independent invention.
What kind of advances?
Well, the source claims significant cultural advances usually attributed to other kingdoms were deliberately obscured, hiding the true role of this network. For example, the wheel didn't arrive in Africa until these figures introduced it, paralleling its late introduction to the Americas with Aztecs and Incas.
Suggesting it wasn't lack of innovation, but controlled dissemination.
That's the argument. And the archetypal image of the Native American horse-drawn archer, powerful symbol, right?
Yeah.
Resulted not from native development, the book claims, but from their exposure to these operatives, which explains why the horse has long been a Latin cultural fixture. It implies even cultural hallmarks we attribute to specific groups might be the result of the Watch's strategic influence, controlling tech flow to shape civilizations.
What's truly remarkable here is how many seemingly different mythologies converge when you look at it this way.
Exactly. The Hyksos worshipped a storm god Peshub, Baal Hadad, powerful deities later assimilated into the Egyptian Seth.
Right.
And when catastrophic events happened, like volcanoes, Santorini, ancient peoples blamed powerful storm or sky deities. Figures which, in a bicameral context, would have been those commanding voices, right? Seemingly divine pronouncements. The Amorites' patron deity, Amaru, also a storm god. And Tupac Amaru, the final Inca monarch, bears a name arguably connecting this network across continents. Shared theological and leadership patterns, hinting at a unified system. Divine and temporal authority linked.
And the dragon slaying motif.
And the recurring motif of storm gods slaying dragons. Present in nearly all mythologies linked to this group. Apep in Egypt, Leviathan in Canaanite Hebrew texts, the Hydra in Greek myth, Jörmungandr in Norse sagas, even Indra battling Vitra in the Indian Vedas.
Wow, it's everywhere.
The legendary Yellow Emperor of China is also mentioned in this context, credited with bringing order from chaos. This profound consistency across diverse mythologies strongly suggests the Watch's influence can be seen in Eastern accounts too, a truly global reach.
So the myths themselves reinforce the Watch's role as bringers of order.
That's how the book interprets it. deliberately crafted to reinforce that narrative. And it connects to language origins again.
How so?
The book posits the Chinese script likely developed during the Hyksos expulsion from Egypt, making it the oldest continuously used writing system, but with this hidden connection to Western ancient history.
Okay.
And this links to strategic redefinition of terms. Asiatic initially meant people east of Africa. Orient initially designated Canaan, not the Far East.
So they redefined geography too.
The book argues these terms were strategically redefined by the Watch to control narratives, crucial trade routes. It's presented as a geopolitical strategy. Obscure origins, control resources, manage information flow globally.
And the Yellow Emperor myths fit into this.
The Yellow Emperor, foundational figure in China, credited with inventing scripts, centralizing power, rumored to have turned into a dragon and flown up to heaven.
Right, the myth.
This myth, the author argues, was meticulously designed by this oligarchy to deify their founding figures, which aligns perfectly with the bicameral mind theory. A strong leader's authoritative commands could be interpreted by a bicameral populace as divine directives, coming from a god.
Making their rule unquestionable.
Strategically preventing questioning of their authority, imbuing their rule with divine sanction, fostering unquestioning obedience. The book claims this was conscious psychological manipulation.
Okay, this is where the patterns become, in the book's view, undeniable. Let's unpack this. The Scorpion King, from Egypt's pre-dynastic period, laid groundwork for the First Dynasty, academically linked to the god Seth. Seth appears on the scorpion mace head, like a physical manifestation of those internalized divine voices Jaynes talked about.
Right.
Now, what's striking is the parallel. The Scorpion King unified Egypt by defeating a rival with a bull hat symbol.
Okay.
And Chinese legends credit the Yellow Emperor with unifying tribes by defeating the Yan Emperor, who is associated with a cow-headed hat.
Bull hat, cow-headed hat.
This shared bovine imagery, across cultures separated by thousands of miles, supposedly millennia, presented as compelling evidence for a deeper orchestrated pattern, a deliberate echoing of foundational myths to serve the Watch's narrative, like a global repeating historical template.
Okay, so according to the source, the Amorites, their predecessors, their successors in this network, weren't just nomads. They were the true developers of the foundational elements of early civilizations.
The actual source.
And they systematically disseminated these advancements across the world. The first authentic writing system, for example, didn't originate in Iraq, as commonly believed.
Where then?
From these operatives in the Black Sea region, later perfected in the Sinai Peninsula, which, the book argues, explains why African hieratic glyphs possessed Semitic phonetic values, fundamentally rerouting our understanding of literacy's origins, crediting it to this secret society.
That's a huge claim, rerouting the origin of writing itself, challenging established timelines, and the China connection.
The foundational figures of Chinese civilization are said to have migrated from Africa, carrying this knowledge, and the book points to material evidence.
Like what?
Radiometric dating of ancient Chinese bronzes reveals their chemical composition was more like early African bronzes than native Chinese ore.
Really? Chemical signatures match Africa.
Providing direct material evidence, the book argues, of transcontinental movement, orchestrated by this secret service, suggesting deliberate transfer of tech and expertise across vast distances, not independent invention.
And the Hyksos tech ties in here too.
This connection deepens when we look at technology. The Hyksos technologies, metallurgy, advanced chariots, literacy, domesticated plants, animals.
Yes.
They were precisely those excavated at the Shang capital, Yingsu, in China, a civilization traditionally seen as developing independently.
Wow.
This direct correlation powerfully reinforces the book's argument about this league shaping early Chinese civilization.
Wow.
Plus, their sophisticated mathematics made foundational contributions, including creating a place value system essential for complex math and the very first use of negative numbers, demonstrating a deep understanding and systematic spread of advanced intellectual tools by the Watch, not just military power.
And that advanced math knowledge was seemingly everywhere at once.
Coordinated, pretty much.
Net.
Contemporaneously with the purported reign of the Yellow Emperor in China, advanced math flourished in Mexico, where the concept of zero got a standard symbol in Mayan numerals, a huge intellectual leap.
Zero in Mexico, place value in China, all around the same time.
It further suggests synchronous development of advanced mathematical principles across continents, controlled by the Watch, implying a global, coordinated intelligence network, not isolated inventions. It challenges that idea of separate discovery paths.
So this network was truly globe-spanning.
What's fascinating here is the sheer scale implied. The book argues elite Tacharian populations in the Tarim Basin, Central Asia, once thought ancient might actually have been medieval operatives, much closer to our G-figures time,
Medieval, not ancient.
suggesting a widespread deployment of handlers throughout Central and South Asia, connecting with contemporaneous presences like the Hyksos in Africa, the Mitanni in Syria, the Kassites in Babylonia, regions all notably associated with that rare, powerful purple dye.
The purple dye again.
A color of royalty status. The book argues this specific dye was often used as a visible signature of the watch's covert influence, a material fingerprint of their widespread presence.
Okay, this brings us to maybe the most mind-bending part of the whole theory, the deliberate redating of history.
Right, the compression.
The source uses this restructured timeline, dramatically compresses all recorded history into a much narrower window, mainly the 13th to 18th century CE. Events traditionally dated before the Renaissance, treated as manifestations of the feudal era, and prehistory. Encoded before the 11th century, this radical framework is intended to reveal the fractal, encrypted nature of history as a deliberate fabrication, challenging the very linearity of time as we perceive it, suggesting a manipulated chronology.
And an intriguing example of this redating is Apophysis Rhind mathematical papyrus.
The math text, right?
It boasts of revealing all cryptic secrets. Cites pyramid measurements relying on a precise value of pi.
Okay.
Now, conventional dating puts the Great Pyramid of Giza way back in 2560 BC.
Yeah, Old Kingdom.
But the book argues its mathematics align perfectly with Amorite Hyksos documents from 1900-1600 BC, which calculate within 1% of its true value and accurately list Pythagorean triples long before Pythagoras.
So the math in the pyramid matches documents dated almost 1,000 years later, but still way before Pythagoras.
This mathematical consistency, despite conventional dating, is presented as compelling evidence. Evidence for the watch's long-term planning, consistent application of hidden knowledge, suggesting the pyramids are far more recent than we're led to believe. Maybe 1600 BC, not 2600 BC.
And from those Pythagorean triples came the golden ratio, phi.
Exactly. Knowledge of the golden ratio, phi, about 1.618, emerged. The book argues this knowledge traveled through Amorite chieftains to ancient Greece, Arabia, ultimately underpinning everything from Renaissance banking principles to Alberti's architecture.
So they held on to this knowledge, delayed its release.
Suggesting an intentional delay in spreading this numeric lore to the public. Western scholars didn't widely get Latin translations of Pythagoras' works until the 1430s. This isn't just slow diffusion. It's presented as a controlled release, ensuring the watch kept exclusive access to this powerful mathematical blueprint for centuries, giving them a profound advantage in engineering society, which raises the question, why control the release of math knowledge so precisely?
Yeah, what?
The book suggests early Masonic manifestos, deeply infused with Pythagorean number mysticism, sacred geometry. They derive from the same hidden stream of knowledge, indicating a continuation of the watch's influence through secretive fraternal organizations.
Wow, the Masons connection.
And the Great Pyramid, which the author provocatively renames the Pyramid of the Amorites and the Great Sphinx, carved with Apophis' likeness. They're presented not as ancient Egyptian monuments, but as the oldest of the seven wonders. With this alternative theory, they originated pre-dynastically.
Yeah, by who then?
Constructed by a Semitic-speaking, technologically advanced group, possibly Proto-Hyksos or ancestral Canaanites, predating official Egyptian dynasties. It flips the entire pyramid construction narrative.
What's truly remarkable here is how the golden ratio seems to pop up everywhere in monumental architecture.
It does seem that way. Both Teotihuacan's Pyramid of the Sun in Mesoamerica and the Great Pyramid of Giza exhibit proportions reflecting the golden ratio.
Across the Atlantic again.
The source posits that while ancient builders might have had intuitive knowledge, it was the Amorites and later Hyksos who explicitly accessed these advanced concepts and spread their application globally.
And it connects to finance, too.
Even seemingly disparate systems like double-entry bookkeeping, cornerstone of modern finance, and the intricate design of Cambodia's Angkor Wat align proportionally with the golden ratio, suggesting an ancient, intentional connection between finance, architecture, and the watch's influence, all based on a shared, hidden mathematical blueprint.
So the Hyksos weren't just invaders. They were inheritors and preservers of this ancient math tradition.
That's the implication. They inherited and meticulously preserved it. The source claims that after their expulsion from Egypt, Egyptian scribes systematically erased Hyksos monuments, left only the victor's narrative, a practice of deplatforming, the book calls it, starting with physical destruction, evolving into historical erasure. mirroring modern attempts to erase figures.
And where did the Hyksos go after being expelled?
Following their expulsion, the book claims, Hyksos strategically fanned out to China, India, seeding new cultures, ensuring the watch's architectural, mathematical, religious templates propagated globally under fresh guises, perpetuating their hidden influence across the world.
Okay, let's really try to unpack this truly radical revisionist framework. The book proposes that the so-called Bronze Age collapse, conventionally around 1200–1150 BC.
Right. Big, mysterious collapse.
And the Age of Exploration, 15th, 17th centuries CE periods separated by over 2,000 years, might actually be viewed as overlapping phenomena.
Overlapping, yes. Effectively occurring within the much narrower window of the 15th to 16th centuries.
How is that even possible?
It hinges fundamentally on the idea that the historical record is a palimpsest, a document written over, erased, rewritten, full of duplicated and meticulously misdated events. History isn't linear in this view. It's a re-edited, compressed script.
Wow, okay. So the Bronze Age collapse and the Age of Exploration are the same event, or closely related.
Yeah. That's the radical argument. The widespread societal collapse, traditionally put in the 12th century BC fall of Hittites, Mycenaeans, New Kingdom Egypt,
Yeah, major powers wiped out.
is argued by the author to be directly mirrored in the profound upheavals, the extensive maritime migrations, the significant imperial realignments of early modern Europe.
Mirrored how?
For example, Ramesses II, powerful pharaoh, employed southern European mercenaries from the Aegean Anatolian world, groups like the Sheridan, hinting at these consistent connections across time, suggesting the Sea peoples blamed for the Bronze Age collapse were actually later European groups, misstated.
So the rise of powerful maritime empires like Portugal and Spain, the decimation of indigenous civilizations in the Americas, the fragmentation of older trade systems, all hallmarks of the Age of Exploration.
Yes.
They all echo the chaos and reorganization we associate with the Bronze Age collapse.
That's the parallel drawn. And simultaneously, you have documents like the Peary Race Map, early 16th century, shows continents with surprising accuracy, and the sudden surge of global exploration, suggesting retained, though strategically rebranded, ancient seafaring knowledge.
So collapse and exploration are two sides of the same coin, the same global restructuring event.
An elite-controlled reordering of history, the book argues, masked as natural progress, serving to consolidate power, reshape civilizations to the watch's design.
And there are recurring themes across these supposedly separate events.
The source highlights them. Volcanic upheavals, protracted droughts causing famines, waves of invasion, mass migration, severe economic shock. Crucially, these crises always coincide with the diffusion of new metalworking and warfare techniques, suggesting deliberate introduction of tools during periods of vulnerability. And concurrently, the same era's normalized fundamental social structures, private property, monogamy, the nuclear family, demonstrating how society itself was reorganized at its most basic level whenever these agency operatives embedded themselves in new cultures. A systematic re-engineering.
And the watch's fingerprints appear in supposedly independent breakthroughs, making coincidence unlikely.
Exactly. The book points to examples. Magnetism inexplicably emerging independently in Greece, China, India. The crossbow seemingly devised separately on multiple continents. The chariot, revolutionizing Chinese armies, later reconfigured with scythes in India and Persia, far from its supposed origins.
It's a pattern that does demand explanation beyond just coincidence, if accurate.
Suggesting a common source, the watch for these synchronized breakthroughs and strategic tech spread.
And the Phoenicians fit in here, too.
The source argues Hyksos groups who stayed in Canaan eventually founded Phoenicia, that formidable maritime power, colonies all over the Med.
Right, the great sailors.
Its name, folk etymologically linked to red-dyed wool, echoes the Akkadian term Kenai for Canaan, and strikingly mirrors the Alberti family's medieval wool trade empire and the Medici's immense wealth, both powerful Renaissance families.
So a material fingerprint again, connecting ancient groups to Renaissance players through shared economics, trade routes, luxury goods like that purple dye.
That's the argument, the tangible evidence of a continuous influential thread.
So as the book presents it, one anomaly, maybe you ignore it, but a whole constellation of them demands a deeper look.
Precisely.
The extraordinary nature of the claim history as fabrication is matched by the extraordinary breadth of evidence brought forward. Artifacts shifting dates under new tests, events duplicated across eras, tech reappearing fully formed after long gaps. If the official record, with all its complexities, can't account for these consistent, pervasive patterns, then this alternative, however unconventional, however audacious, it arguably earns its place at the table, forces us to consider a different truth, a hidden history.
And what's truly fascinating here, across every historical phase, every continent the book touches, is that consistent through line.
Yeah.
The founding of Carthage, the meticulous design of megalithic observatories, the widespread spread of alphabets, establishing public libraries, inventing zero, those plague-driven societal resets.
It's a lot.
The source argues one consistent thread persists, this hidden fraternity, the Watch. Systematically engineering monuments, scripts, laws, legends, steering the trajectory of civilizations, leaving behind perfectly aligned stones, perfectly timed myths, as silent, enduring proofs of its long, deliberate hand-guiding history from the shadows. Hashtag outro powder.
So where does this leave us? What does this all mean for how we understand history? This deep dive into encrypted reality has certainly challenged us to look way beyond the surface, to consider the profoundly unsettling possibility of a history that wasn't just recorded, but meticulously engineered.
Yeah?
A story carefully curated by unseen forces, perhaps for millennia.
It undeniably encourages critical thinking, doesn't it? Questioning assumptions we've just taken for granted, considering radically different viewpoints, especially when faced with patterns that seem to defy conventional explanation.
Definitely.
And the implications are profound. If our understanding of the past is so malleable, so open to being reshaped, even fabricated, what does that say about our present? And even our future? It raises a really important question for you, the listener. What hidden patterns might still be at play, shaping the world around you right now? And how might you even begin to discern them, even in things that seem totally mundane?
That's a truly provocative thought to mull over long after this deep dive ends. We hope this exploration has given you some serious aha moments, maybe, sparked your own curiosity to look for those hidden connections, the deeper story in the world around you. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.